Welcome back to another episode of Football Focus with Finn. Today we are going to be going over several things. We're going to be going over Doug Pederson's firing. We're going to be going over the divisional round games, and we're going to be kind of recapping the crazy wild card weekend we have, which was so fun to watch. And we're basically just going to be, having some fun today. So basically, we're going to start it off with the wild card recap. The first game on Saturday, Colts playing the Bills. Bills winning this one 27-24. It was a close game. It was closer than I thought it was going to be, closer than I predicted. But I predicted the Bills were going to win. I think that the Bills were definitely disadvantaged because they struggled with some bad field position early on. But Josh Allen, amazing as usual, throwing for 324 yards and 2 touchdowns and rushing for 54 yards and another touchdown. So he was very good. Stephon Diggs, obviously, a fantastic 6 receptions, 128 yards and a touchdown. So on that side of things, really, 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 really good. Josh Allen played a really good game. Bills defense kind of disintegrated, allowing Phillip Rivers to throw for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. But they kept Jonathan Taylor in check, only allowed 78 yards. But, overall, Michael Pittman was very, very impressive. But I think that main thing was Bills got the victory, and, a win is a win is a win. So good job to the Bills because at first there were some parts where I'm like, oh my gosh, are the Colts going to pull up this upset? But Bills showed that Josh Allen's an MVP candidate and that they are a phenomenal team. First off, I just want to say, going on to the next game, Los Angeles Rams versus Seattle Seahawks. So many of my friends, everyone listening, made fun of me. They're like, Rams ain't beating the Seahawks. Seahawks are the third seed. Rams are the sixth seed. There's no way they're beating them. And who predicted this upset? This phenomenal upset. Who predicted that? Oh yeah, that was me. I predicted it. Um, Rams very mediocre in the passing game. Jared Goff only throwing for 155 yards and a touchdown. But man, Cam Akers was insane. Ran for over 130 yards with a touchdown, 4.7 yards per carry. Absolutely phenomenal. Robert Woods was solid, catching a touchdown. Cooper Kupp left early because of an injury. Of course, John Wolford had to go to the hospital. He is released from the hospital, so good that he is doing okay. But it was crazy. I think the main story of this game was the Rams defense was absolutely phenomenal. Darius Williams picking off a pass by Russell Wilson, taking it all the way to the house. Aaron Donald had 2 sacks. Leonard Floyd had 2 sacks. Morgan Fox got a sack. I mean, their defense was just unstoppable in this game. And I predicted the Rams to go out to the Super Bowl because of this defense. It's just the most complete defense you will see. So just if you're thinking about, this team, watch out for this defense because it is just unstoppable. We're gonna head over to the next game. The Buccaneers versus the Washington football team. Buccaneers won this one, but it was closer than you might think. Taylor Heineke was really the story of this game, throwing for over 306 yards, a touchdown and an interception. But I think the main story was one of these rushes that he had. He led his team in rushes, carrying it 6 times for 46 yards and a touchdown, 7.7 yards per carry, and an amazing touchdown run. Cam Sims was actually the leading receiver for the Washington football team. Normally Terry McLaurin is. He only had 75 yards. But then, of course, Tom Brady went for 388 yards on 22 completions, 2 touchdowns, and Leonard Fournette had 93 yards rushing plus a touchdown. And the receivers were really the story for this team. Mike Evans going for over 100 yards, Cameron Brate having 80 yards, Chris Godwin having 80 yards and a touchdown, Antonio Brown having 50 yards and a touchdown. Like, the list just went on and on and on and on. And there was a lot of pressure, 2 sacks, and an interception for this Tampa Bay defense. But yeah, it was mainly Bucks didn't turn the ball over. Washington was able to their offense was a little stagnant, and their defense wasn't able to stop Tom Brady from absolutely running wild on this defense. So that ended up Saturday. Then we went to the first game, Ravens versus Titans. This is the only game I didn't predict correctly. Kind of going back to my predictions, just from the wild card, I got I got 5 games out of the 6 games right. I correctly predicted the Rams, correctly predicted the Bucks game, correctly predicted the Saints game, correctly predicted the Bills game, but I didn't correctly predicted the Steelers game. We'll get to that in a minute, but I didn't predict that the Ravens would beat the Titans. Ravens were down early, down 10 points in the first quarter, but they rallied, scoring 17 straight points and eventually getting the victory. Lamar Jackson, mediocre day on the passing game, but boy, he stepped it up in the rushing game, rushing for 136 yards and a touchdown, aided by one of the best touchdown runs I've seen of him, easily. Passing game was kind of mediocre, but the Ravens reeled it in. Marcus Peters picking off Ryan Tannehill, Derek Wolfe with a sack. So between the defense stopping, the holding Derrick Henry to only 40 yards, which was impressive, but mainly it was all about this rushing game of Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And to be fair, I predicted the Titans would beat him, but beat the Ravens, but I did predict this run game would be a handful. So I don't see it as a total loss for me when it comes to, predictions. Hopping in right into the next game, it was the Bears versus the Saints, also broadcast on Nickelodeon. I did not personally watch the Nickelodeon version of it. I heard it was a little weird, but a bunch of people kind of liked it. Mitchell Trubisky, kind of mediocre, threw for 200 yards and a touchdown. And I think the big reason was in the beginning of the game, at halftime, it was 7-3, the lowest scoring playoff game since Super Bowl 53. Very, very low scoring in the first half, but Saints really ran away with it, scoring 14 more points in the second half. Bears defense was pretty good at keeping the Saints offense in check, sacking Drew Brees only once, but a lot of tackles really stopping them on third down, a lot. But I think the main thing was Anthony Miller got ejected early. They didn't have Darnell Mooney, and their leading receiver was Allen Robinson with only 55 yards. So their offense was very stagnant. Leading rusher, David Montgomery, 12 rushes for only 31 yards, 2.6 yards a carry. So Saints, it wasn't pretty, but they got past the Bears. The Bears only put up 9 points of total offense. So it wasn't great. Only 239 yards of offense for the Bears, 385 for the Saints. Saints really, really showing up. Drew Brees throws for 2 touchdowns, 265 yards. Alvin Kamara rushes for 100 yards and a touchdown. Deontay Harris, leading receiver, with 83 yards, and Michael Thomas he's back in full force, 73 yards and a touchdown. When it comes to receiving, everyone was good. Alvin Kamara helped out with the rushing part of it, so it was good all around for the Saints. And the Bears really just left a lot on the field. Even though they were only sacked, even though Mitchell Trubisky was only sacked once by Sheldon Rankins. But that was the second to last game. The last game, oh boy. I mean, I was watching this game. I went to bed around the second half just because, it was a school night. But it was absolutely insane. I mean, you can't tell me that no one was shocked, because everyone was shocked. Baker Mayfield threw the ball really, really well. 263 yards, 3 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, 18 carries for 76 yards. Kareem Hunt, 8 carries for 48 yards and 2 touchdowns. But that wasn't the story. The story was the amount of interceptions that Big Ben threw. 1 to Porter Gustin, 1 to Sion Taki, 1 to Sheldrick Redwine, 1 to MJ Stewart. Like, little known guys were getting picks off this guy. He threw 4. Big Ben threw 4 in total, and I think the main reason that they really bet was the first play of the game. Steelers had the ball, bad snap, sails all the way into the end zone. Browns recovered to start it off with 7. So in the first quarter, the Cleveland Browns put up 28 points, 7 in the second quarter. Pittsburgh Steelers were able to strike again in the 10th. I mean, the Steelers stepped it up, scoring 13 points in the third quarter, 14 points in the fourth quarter. But it just wasn't enough. Final score, Cleveland Browns 48, Pittsburgh Steelers 37. So in all of those games, Bills beat the Colts 27-24, Rams beat the Seahawks 30-20, Buccaneers beat the Washington football team 31-23, Ravens beat the Titans 20-13, Saints beat the Bears 21-9, and Browns beat the Steelers 48-37. Now, I don't want to go too long with this episode, but I just wanted to react to the Doug Pederson firing. First off, I think I'm not entirely mad at it. I'm okay with it. I'm a little bit surprised. I didn't think that, not necessarily to say that I didn't want them to fire Doug Pederson. I didn't think they were going to fire Doug Pederson. They did. I thought it was a little surprising that they did. I wasn't expecting it. But Jeffrey Lurie said that in the interviews that he had with Doug Pederson, or really the talks where they sat down together, first one last week didn't go too well, and they met again today, and they both decided that it wasn't the right fit. I'm not necessarily mad about it. I'm not angry. What I am mad about is that we're going to fire Doug Pederson and not do anything about Howie Roseman. I think that if anyone's going, it should be Howie Roseman. But I think that, it was a good 5 seasons with Doug. Made the playoffs 3 of those 5 seasons. His play calling was really not phenomenal. I'm just excited to see, who we move after next. Because I'd like, someone like Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator for the Chiefs, someone possibly like Lincoln Riley, a coach from Oklahoma, for college football. So there's a whole lot of possibilities. Several head coaching spots open. I'd like to see who we have. I'd like to see. Want to see who the Eagles are gonna go after. Real quick, as a look ahead to the divisional round, Rams play the Packers, Ravens play the Bills, Browns play the Chiefs, the Buccaneers play the Saints. As you know, if you didn't watch, you should watch my playoff predictions if you haven't already. But I have the Rams beating the Packers, Bills beating. I had the Bills beating the 3 Pittsburgh. But since it's a little difference, technically, if we're going along, I have the Bills beating the Ravens, Chiefs beating the Browns, Buccaneers beating, Saints beating the Buccaneers. So, my playoff predictions are a little bit flawed just because of seeding, and I didn't predict one of the things, but going 5-1 on my predictions isn't that horrible. I nailed 5 out of the 6 matchups. So thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so happy for some renewal in listening. Make sure to follow my upcoming videos. I'm gonna be hoping possibly to do some YouTube live stream, so make sure to check out my YouTube channel, Football Foods with Finn, if you're listening to this as a podcast through the podcast. Make sure to subscribe, because then you will be able to see me when I go live on YouTube, or make sure to look at like Podbean, the Podbean app, where I will be going live as well. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.